Outer Banks polished a turd. What does that mean? Well, give me a second to try and explain. So the show is about a group of teenagers played by 30-year-olds who go by the name of Pogues. They're determined to find out the truth about the father of John B., who's the group's leader, who randomly disappeared and was presumed to have drowned. However, he left behind a missing treasure that John B. and the other Pogues are determined to find, which sends them on a 10-episode journey. And boy, what a journey and a half that is. They get hunted down constantly by their kooks, they're stopped by police, the show develops a villain halfway through that's determined to get the treasure for himself, there's constantly running, hiding, murder, fires, I mean, it just never ends. And on paper, this show absolutely should not work. The premise is pretty juvenile, the script is all over the place, there's not a lot of room for characters to develop and grow because the show's way too crowded, but somehow this show works. In fact, it's probably one of the most entertaining TV shows I've ever watched, and why? Because this show polished a turd, and you're probably wondering by now what I mean by that, so let me elaborate. There's a YouTuber called High Top Films who made a video about Aquaman. In that video, he explains how director James Wan is brilliant, but the script and writing held the film back. He explains that the script was a turd that the director couldn't polish, because you can't polish a turd. It's actually a great video. And no, Outer Banks has nothing to do with Aquaman or James Wan or this YouTuber, obviously, but I want to use this analogy to talk about Outer Banks, because this show proves High Top Films wrong. It turns out that you can polish a turd. In Outer Banks, the writing is all over the place, the characters' motivations are really confusing at times, the plot is extremely convenient when it wants to be, the story's predictable, and at some points completely far-fetched. The writing is just, it's straight up bad. However, the effort that the show puts into everything else is enough to polish the turd that is its script. This show could have been campy, and it really should have been, but so much effort went into the directing, acting, and visual presentation that it just wasn't. In the beginning, the show definitely had some questionable acting, and in fact, I still think there are some actors that were pretty average throughout, but there were also some that were brilliant from start to finish, such as Rudy Panko, who played JJ, and Drew Starkey, who played Wraith. But by the end, it seemed like every single actor was giving it their all. Everybody seemed to be invested. Even if some were noticeably better than others still, I was impressed and convinced by almost every single actor, because it was clear that they were invested in the story being told. The editing was fantastic, the set design was thought out, the effects were damn near flawless. There was so much here to get you completely absorbed into the nonsensical journey that is Outer Banks. And as my girlfriend pointed out, this show is f***ing nuts, because it really, really is. In the first episode, so much happens. These kids are getting into fights with their rival gang, running away from the police, fighting with each other. I was so confused, because I wasn't sure where else the show was going to go. But it doesn't stop. In fact, it only gets crazier as the show develops, and I'm not exaggerating, but I was invested in every second of it, and that's what I mean by effort. It's obvious that every single suspenseful scene is thought out visually, and effort went into the directing. One thing that I always harp on when it comes to good television and movies is character development, but that's not a good quality about this show. In fact, aside from a few characters such as JJ, the character development really isn't even great. There's not a lot of room in the script for the characters to breathe and relax because they're constantly being chased every 2 seconds. Some characters feel completely flat, uninteresting, and hypocritical, yet somehow I'm able to feel for them all. I'm invested in what they have to say and where they're going next because the show gives a shit. It tries to remain convincing throughout its choppy script. The cast tries to give their performances all that they can, and it shows. Outer Banks is impressive. It takes an absurd concept about a bunch of high schoolers fighting with adults to look for a hidden treasure, and somehow had me fully hooked. Hell, I didn't even care for the show's ending, but I'm still talking about how much I loved it, because this show has heart, and I'm genuinely looking forward to what Season 2 has to offer us.